They said the farmhouse was empty for years, but last night, I saw a light in the window. The road to the farmhouse was almost gone, eaten by weeds and time. I didn't want to come back here, but something in my dreams kept calling me home. The gate screamed when I pushed it open. Every step on the porch sounded like it remembered me. Inside, the air was thick like someone had just left. Old photographs lined the hallway, their faces twisted in the beam of my light. For a second, I thought I saw someone behind me. When I turned, nothing but silence, and that smell of damp earth. The kitchen bulb flickered as if it were breathing. I remembered Dad fixing that same bulb before the fire. The silence had weight now, pressing against my ears. The bedroom door opened by itself. A child's toy rolled out, stopping by my foot. I raised my light and saw someone in the mirror. When I turned, they were gone. From the basement, a single knock echoed. I shouldn't have gone down there. A whisper said, "Leave," but it came from my own voice. Then the lights died. When I lit the match, I saw the old family photos on the floor. In the smoke, a figure stepped forward. It was my father. No one believes I went back there, but something still does. When the walls began whispering my name, I knew I had stayed too long. It started 3 nights after I moved into the old farmhouse outside Centerville, Ohio. The place had been empty for nearly 20 years, an inheritance from an uncle I barely remembered. I'd been laid off from my job in Columbus and couldn't afford rent anymore. So the idea of living rent-free in a family property seemed like a blessing. It wasn't. The house stood alone at the end of County Road 44. Surrounded by dead cornfields and silence. It was the kind of silence that pressed on your eardrums, the kind you could almost feel moving against your skin. The first day, I noticed strange things: doors that didn't align with their frames, patches of darker wood around certain floorboards, and old nails driven into the walls in no particular pattern. The previous owner, my uncle, had died inside the house. The lawyer said, natural causes. The first night, I slept in the downstairs bedroom because the upstairs air felt too heavy. Around 2:30 a.m., I woke up to footsteps above me, slow, dragging, measured. I told myself it was the wood settling, but the steps paused exactly above my bed, then moved again toward the stairs. By morning, convinced myself it was an animal, raccoon, maybe. The logical part of me clung to that idea until I went upstairs and found dustless footprints in the hallway, bare feet, wide at the toes, long stride. I didn't have many belongings yet, just a mattress, a suitcase, and a small table with a lamp. I tried not to think about it. I opened all the windows, let sunlight in, and turned on some music while cleaning. Everything smelled of mold and something faintly metallic, like rust or blood. By evening, I'd made a little progress, swept floors, washed some curtains. When night came, I double-checked the locks, left a hall light on, and lay down. The air felt colder that night. At 3:04 a.m., I woke again, same sound. Footsteps. Only this time, they didn't stop upstairs. I heard them descend the stairs slowly. My heart hammered so loud I could barely breathe. The steps reached the hallway, then stopped outside my door. The knob twitched. Once, twice, then stillness. I waited an hour before daring to move. When I finally opened the door, there was nothing there except a faint wet footprint leading down the hallway toward the back door. The next morning, I packed my bags. I was ready to leave, but the car wouldn't start. The battery was fine. The engine turned, but nothing caught. It felt like the house didn't want me to go, so I stayed another night. That evening, I heard the radio switch on by itself in the kitchen, an old AM station crackling with static. Through the hiss came a man's voice, barely audible. "Stay where you are." I unplugged the radio. The sound continued for 5 more seconds. By the 4th night, I stopped pretending it was my imagination. The temperature dropped sharply around midnight. I could see my breath, even though the thermostat read 72. The walls made a faint popping sound, like joints cracking. Then the whispering began. At first, it was low and distinct, then clearer. Danielle, no one had called me that since my mother died. The whisper came again closer, almost brushing my ear. I turned, flashlight trembling in my hand, scanning the empty room. The shadows didn't move, but the corners seemed deeper than they should have been, as if they were swallowing the light. I ran outside, barefoot in the cold. The night was windless, the stars sharp and distant. I didn't go back in until dawn. That morning, I found muddy footprints circling the bed. Mine stopped at the doorway. These were smaller, like a child's. The next day, drove into town to ask about the house. The hardware store owner, an old man named Gary, froze when I mentioned the address. "Your uncle," he said slowly, "wasn't alone when he died. They found him in the basement with something else, a body, buried in the wall." He wouldn't say more, just gave me a look that said leave. When I got back, the house felt different, like it was waiting. I went to the basement. The air was damp and foul. A single bulb hung from a wire, barely lighting the cracked concrete floor. The far wall had a patch of fresh plaster. It didn't match the rest. I stared at it until my hands started shaking. Then I picked up a hammer. I only meant to chip a little, to see what was behind. The wall gave way too easily. Inside was a hollow space, and something wrapped in rotting fabric. A skull, small, child-sized. I stumbled backward and dropped the hammer. The light flickered. When it steadied, there were wet footprints leading from the hole toward me. I ran upstairs, slammed the basement door, and shoved a chair under the handle. I could hear movement below, a dragging sound, then tapping, gentle, rhythmic, like knuckles on wood. That night, I didn't sleep. The tapping continued until dawn. I called the sheriff the next morning. They sent a deputy. He listened, took notes, and promised to file it. He didn't even go inside. By the 7th night, the whispering wasn't just in one room anymore. It came from every wall, every vent, every inch of shadow. Sometimes it was a woman's voice, sometimes a child's, sometimes both, overlapping. I started hearing them when I was outside too. I tried to record it, left my phone on the kitchen counter overnight. The next morning, the recording was 6 hours of silence. Then, at 3:15 a.m., a single word, "Stay." I should have driven that car until the engine tore apart. I should have walked to town, but I didn't. I told myself one more night. Just one. That last night, the house came alive. Doors slammed upstairs. The floorboards groaned under invisible weight. The lights flickered and burst. I grabbed my flashlight and my keys. As I reached for the front door, something moved in the reflection of the window, something standing behind me. I didn't turn around. The voice whispered right against my neck, "You found us." The flashlight fell from my hand. The beam rolled across the floor and landed on a pair of small, muddy feet. When I woke, it was morning. I was lying in the front yard. The house was quiet. My car started on the first try. I didn't look back until I reached the county line. From the road, I saw someone standing at the upstairs window, a child, watching me leave. The farmhouse was demolished 6 months later. The county record said the land was unstable. But last week, I drove by. The house is gone. The land is flat. Still at night, when everything is quiet, I swear, and hear footsteps on the ceiling. Please like, share, and subscribe for more interesting videos. Thanks, bye.